I think you can train AI to be a great copywriter at this stage, but whether anybody has the time for that is another question.
Today, we're talking to Will Pearson. Will is the co CEO and co founder of Scalero, a notable lifecycle marketing studio that works with over 100 brands across SaaS, e commerce, and marketplaces on their lifecycle marketing. Let's dive in and hear how they use AI. Have you found that your clients that you're working with, obviously you've mentioned that your internal team is leaning into AI. Have you found that your clients are also doing the same? Is there a hesitation that they have at all for using AI, or do you find that most of the people that you work with are just as excited about kind of this new world of learning as you guys are?
We've seen a mixed bag in terms of excitement, particularly on the creative side. A lot of our clients are very skeptical of the copywriting, and especially with some well-established brands where the content and the voice of the brand is very unique, and that's part of what has made them successful. They're super hesitant to even try ChatGPT at all, or even as a thought starter, or something to get the creative flow going. Whereas others, who maybe some companies that are more in the startup stage that have been founded in the last couple of years, they're all in on it, even structuring their teams a little differently, with the implementation of AI. And we even have one client that's doing really well, a two-year-old startup. Before they brought us in, they were using ChatGPT to write all the copy for every email and message going out, and for the website as well. So, we've really seen it on all ends, and I don't know that there's a right or wrong answer. I kind of understand all sides right now.
Have you seen any of these like moments click for teams or individuals that were hesitant and now all of a sudden feel comfortable with it?
I've seen it click a lot with more transactional type messaging, and I think it's easier to accept when it's written like that. And honestly, for me, historically, transactional messaging has always been harder for me to write than maybe a long form type of message, because you need to be so precise, so direct, and very short. And I'll tend to write a little longer. You don't have to represent the brand perfectly, within that one message. But there is an important call to action involved there. I think you can train AI to be a great copywriter at this stage, but whether anybody has the time for that is another question. So it really does take a huge commitment from an organization, not just an individual, to want to get to that point, with a strong brand voice.
I'm curious if you have any thoughts around the future of AI and how it will impact marketing team dynamics or like team sizes.
It goes back to what I've been talking about with reducing clicks, and I think that should be how marketers think about their jobs, because clicking on things is an important part of our job, but it's not everything. And so, what can we do if we are clicking less? And everyone tends to jump to like, well, I could be more strategic, and that's great, but that's not always the answer either. I think if you're clicking less on one particular email, maybe that means you can do two emails instead of one, and we can A/B test a little better than we used to, and things like that. So I do think there's a lot of opportunities for marketers to enhance what they're doing using AI, without just throwing our hands up and letting it take over everything we're doing. Another analogy I really like with AI is thinking of ourselves as air traffic controllers in a way. So, especially in lifecycle marketing, where there might be a world in the future, as we talked about, where there are hundreds or thousands, or I don't know, millions of campaigns going on at the same time, because there's an A/B test, and then a winner is quickly declared, and there's a new test, and then there's new content, and it's almost an infinite amount of possibilities and how to do lifecycle marketing. But there still needs to be an air traffic controller, right? Making sure that everything is still moving the direction it needs to move, avoiding disaster, um, making adjustments, things like that. So I don't think AI is coming for all of our jobs. I think things will probably evolve, but if you think of yourself as an air traffic controller and adapting AI and controlling it and leading it to the point where it can really work for you, I think that could be be amazing.
Do you worry that there's going to be end user hesitancy knowing that like AI might have been on the other side of it? Or do you think we'll all collectively just reach this place where we shrug and say, like, yeah, it's AI on the other end?
I think there is a lot of hesitancy for sure, from people to resonate as much with AI written copy. I fear a little bit in the world of marketing. We always are striving for amazing personalization and one-to-one communication with all of our customers. But sometimes I don't think that's necessarily the best approach because I don't think people always know what they want based on what they've done before. And sometimes you need to surprise and delight them. And I've heard of content strategies that are, every 10th email or so is something kind of totally off topic and different from what a user may normally receive, and those emails tend to perform really well. So I think there's a world where still being human and communicating with your customers, even if it's not the most personalized message that they've ever received, I think those can still be super effective. And finding that balance is going to be the key as we use AI more and more.
Sometimes even when I've done hyper personalized emails and tested them against a B variant that was just broad, it's the B variant that ends up winning, and I'm like, wait, maybe I
Mhm.
don't know what's best for you.
That seems to be a huge opportunity with AI, would be to be able to personalize like crazy and run infinite amount of A/B tests at all times. But again, it's not necessarily going to lead to better outcomes if you don't have a human kind of controlling it and mixing in the new content and new features and new products. We had a bit of a infamous story from our days at Vivino where an email was deployed um, in Danish to the entire user base globally,
Mm, hmm
selling
hmm
a wine that was only available in Denmark. It was an amazingly high performing email, like one of the best ever. So even somebody in the US is getting this email that's in Danish and they're like, what is this? This is interesting. They click into it and they land on a wine that they can't even buy in the US, but then they just start shopping around, and just the surprise and the kind of randomness of messaging is still really important.
What a night! What a night!